Hi, everybody. I'm Kristy Woodson Harvey, and I'm so excited to be here for another very special installment of Blank to Beautiful with one of my favorite authors, Mary Alice Monroe. Today is a really, really awesome day because it is launch day for her new book on Ocean Boulevard, which is so exciting. It is such a fabulous book. It is a continuation of her incredibly popular Beach House series. So I'm sure most of you have read that. So if you have not picked up on Ocean Boulevard or pre-ordered it, you need to make sure that you order it today because it's out in the world. Mary Alice is the New York Times bestselling author of, is it 23 novels, Mary Alice?
Yeah, this is my 24th.
Your 24th.
That
Okay.
includes the children's books.
Okay. Well, 24 books then, including on Ocean Boulevard, which is the 6th installment of the Beach House series. Like I said, more than 7.5 million copies of her books have been published worldwide, and she's earned numerous accolades and awards, including induction into the South Carolina Academy of Authors Hall of Fame, the Southwest Florida Author of Distinction Award, South Carolina Award for Literary Achievement, an RT Lifetime Achievement Award, the International Book Award for Green Fiction, and the prestigious Southern Book Prize for Fiction.
My goodness, I have to be old to get that many.
No, you're just that good. Her best-selling novel, The Beach House, is a Hallmark Hall of Fame movie, and she is an active conservationist and serves on the South Carolina Aquarium Board, as well as many, many others. But if you know Mary Alice and you've heard her speak or you follow her online, you know that her conservation efforts are extremely, extremely important to her. So thanks for being here.
Oh, one other major point was that you and I are gallery publishing sisters.
Woo, woo, we are. And now
for a while we shared an editor.
That's right. And now we have this great new venture on Wednesday nights called Friends in Fiction. So if you have to go check us out on Facebook, I'll put a little link in here too, so you can go check it out. Okay, but Mary Alice, just before we dive into anything else, please tell us about On Ocean Boulevard.
Oh my goodness, there it is behind me. I suppose I should have one in my hand. It's I love the cover. Let me see if I can reach it.
Yeah, you need to get it. It's
I'm in a rocking chair. Whoa!
I don't have it yet. They haven't sent it to me.
You know, you're on that. I don't understand how Kristy got it and you didn't. So.
Well, I'm sure it'll come in, but I ordered one, but of course I won't get it till,
Well, if it's any consolation, I haven't gotten my books either. This one came, I got one FedExed special to me with the shipment. But here it is. And the reason I'm color coordinated with my covers. Isn't that nice? But I love this because we see the picture. And actually, I have to, quietly, I can tell you, so no one else knows. I found the photo. I'm really thrilled. I love this picture, but I didn't put the girl in. I just found the car and I just love that view. But I love this girl because when you come to the Isle of Palms, you go over the connector. And when you reach the very top, you see the ocean and it's your first glimpse, just like this, but you're up high and you just feel like, whoa, I'm here. So that's what I want this book to be. It's an escape. I think that's where we're all looking for this year. Your books too. It's to get us to the beach, to take us away from isolation. We can't always get to the beach this year. A lot of reservations are canceled. And even if they're not, some people are choosing to stay home. So this will take you to the beach, as will Kristy's book. And this is the story. It's the continuing story of the Beach House series. It's number 6. But I have to always give the caveat that every book that I write in this series is a standalone. In other words, my job as an author is that if you pick up just this book, the story is complete. It's a story of Kara Rutledge from a historic Charleston family. And she has had a rough life. She left home at 18 to flee the expectations of a Rutledge named young lady in Charleston, all these South of Broad expectations. And she came back at 40 and started to make a life. She reconciled with her mother. And now at 56, the story opens up. She's getting ready for her second marriage. And at 56, she's a little embarrassed and uneasy about the white veil and the big dress and the big Lollapalooza party. And her fiance, David, who's well off, he's proud that he's marrying her. And he wants to, show the world. And she's chafing. But she loves him. And so she wants to make him happy. So that's that sense of, the dis-ease between the two. And speaking of dis-ease, there's a disease that hits a member of the family in the novel. And it causes havoc. It disrupts the wedding plans. It causes friction between David and Kara and everybody. And it's a shock. And I think that's what's timely, Kristy, is that we are facing wedding plans and family functions, graduations disrupted by the coronavirus now. When I wrote this a year ago, I didn't anticipate this. My daughter's wedding was June 20th, canceled. So I'm speaking from experience. This is real life happening. So that's Kara's life. The other major character is this young girl here. Her name is Linnea, and she's 23 years old. And she had left 2 years earlier, much like Kara, fought with her father, who's an old, you're not leaving the South. You're staying right where you belong. Where's California? You are going to California. So she went anyway and had the support of her aunt and went with her boyfriend. Well, now she has to come home. Her job fell apart. Her boyfriend broke up with her. So where do you go when you have no money, no job, no boyfriend? You go home to mom and dad. Mm-hmm. And so she is home, and there's that chafing of the relationship between parents. So you have this whole family dynamics centered around the beach house, and as well as a house that's being under construction on Ocean Boulevard. So I live right off Ocean Boulevard. So this, I think all along the southeastern coast, there's an Ocean Boulevard. And what about you up there, Kristy? Is there one up there?
No, just thinking, is there an Ocean Boulevard? There's not one in Beaufort. There might be one in Atlantic Beach, which is right over the bridge, because we're a little more like sound side here. I mean, the ocean is right. Sure. When you get on your boat, it takes 5 seconds and you're in the ocean. But we're not Ocean Boulevard here, but it's like
Main Street in the South.
Exactly. Well, but we're Front Street, and there's Front Street.
Oh, Front Street. Yes.
Yeah, everybody has a Front Street that's on the coast. So, well, and I will say, I love the way that you write about family dynamics. You do that so well. And it's, it really shows that you have such a close relationship with your family. And so when you were growing up, did you always know that you wanted to be a writer? And, what was that journey sort of like for you?
Oh, I love this question because I think there are two kinds of writers, those that knew ever since, they never thought of not being a writer, and those that came on later. And I'm not saying one is a better writer than the other, but for me, I fall in the former. I always knew. I'm one of 10 children, so one of the eldest. So I put my brothers and sisters to bed for nap time and things. Even though we had nanny, it was never enough.
No, not with 10 brothers and sisters.
So we'd sing songs and make up stories, I wish I had those stories. Yeah. There were some of them were really good because all I know is the kids were riveted, but of course they're gone. But I did write my very first book when I was 8. It was called Willie the Wishful Whale. Oh. And I remember the whole process. I'm not an artist, but my sister is. So she did the illustrations, and I remember stapling the edges. Yeah. And my father called me into his office, and he was very strict. Mary Alice, and whenever I heard that Mary Alice, I got nervous. And he said, "Did you write this book, or did you copy it from someone?" I was so hurt. I was so devastated that he thought I would have copied a book, plagiarized at 8. So yes. I was so nervous after that ever since then I put my stories under the bed, and I would never show them until much later. It was, but I always knew I wanted to write. And then another thing about that I think is important for teachers out there, it was my 3rd grade teacher. Her name is Mrs. Crawford, and I remember her to this day. God rest her soul. I'm sure she's probably gone now. But she came up to me with a story that I'd written. She said, "Mary Alice, did you ever think you wanted to be a writer when you grew up, an author?" And, she named it. I didn't know that was a job. You mean I could be a writer like my dad's a doctor? You mean that's a job? Yeah. And I had a name for what I wanted to be. And since 3rd grade, I always knew what that was going to be.
I love that. Oh my gosh.
These are important. Yeah. Aunts, uncles, doesn't always have to be mom and dad.
No, absolutely. I think there's so many people that influence that path. And I do think there are a lot of people that had that really amazing teacher that helped them decide what they wanted to do with their life. That's a great story. So looking back now, and you sort of touched on this a little bit, but but I want you to spell it out for us. If you were going to give your younger self a piece of advice, like if you're looking back on little Mary Alice who wants to write a book, what would you tell her?
Don't waste time.
Yeah.
Don't waste time. Get it out there. Don't be shy. Take the criticism. Go out and just get it done. Don't watch so much TV. I still love TV. I have to admit, I'm a big binge watcher. Don't waste time. I mean, it's just, sometimes I need it as a soporific.
Yes.
I've been working all day.
Yeah.
But as a child, I think I watched a little too much cartoons, a little too much Flash Gordon, a little too much come home from school with my peanut butter sandwich and plop.
Yeah.
And I would have said, turn off that TV.
That's great advice. That's really good advice. And especially for right now, something that, everyone can relate to and and sort of move forward into. So, we talked a little bit. I know this is an extremely unusual time for our books to be coming out. And I love, that the theme of, having this illness and having, all of these things that kind of relate to what we're going through right now, and the canceled wedding, which I'm so sorry about. That has to be
one. Oh my God, we're devastated. It was going to be a great wedding in Costa Rica. We were so excited. And so hopefully she'll have a party. Actually, it's interesting. I have 3 in my family. The mothers got together, so we didn't cross dates. And we said, okay, I have June 20th. You have August 1st. You have August 29th. And we're all set. All 3 canceled. Oh, gosh. And the kids, I think the parents are like...
It's sad, though. It really is.
Why did you elope?
So do you think that, I know you find your inspiration in lots of different places. And so I was going to see if you could tell us a little bit about where you find your inspiration. And then also, if you think this time will work its way into your stories in any way.
Oh, yeah. Well, most of my inspiration, for those who read my books, I get from nature. Yeah. I usually choose a species first. And for the last 20 years, I've had a real determination to trust my instincts, that intuition that all women have, especially.
Yeah.
You're a writer, Kristy. Joseph Campbell said writers are the shamans of today, and that's you. We sense when it's important for us to write about something right now. Mm-hmm. So when I get that tingling of intuition that it's time for a butterfly book, or it's time to write it, like I want to write about manatees, but I haven't felt it yet.
Right.
And when I just get a strong sense, I do the work with the species. And from my work with the animals, I do research like you do, and talk to experts like you do. The one thing I do with animals, though, is I go out and I volunteer and I work with them, and either training or rehabilitating, or it depends on the species. With monarch butterflies, I raised monarchs, and I went to Mexico.
Wow.
So I pull the story together. And then it takes me about 3 months to write the book. But the inspiration comes from the species. I think for this next book, to tie into your next question, it's not so much the species. I've got this family on Ocean Boulevard here. And I usually write this series once every couple of years. But I think right now I'm so mesmerized and intrigued and experiencing what we are all going through.
Sure.
Coronavirus. And I live on the beach, and so and it doesn't matter where you live, but there are changes on the beach that I'm really worried now with the huge influx of people coming in. How is that affecting us, the animals, the dynamics of a family, the coronavirus, the worries? And I don't want it to be virus. I want it to be about how families are coping with this forced isolation. So my plan, if I get it done, is to continue with the next generation, the younger generation, and to move on to the next series. And then I think I'm going to put it aside for a while. I'm eager to write other books.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting.
When you don't kind of feel like I want to move on to something else now.
You do, yeah. You eventually, because all those ideas are sort of rushing in, and you think, okay, I love this series and I love this family, but I have so many other things I want to say. But then funnily enough, and I think maybe, coronavirus and everyone being home and people wanting something sort of soothing, something they can go back to, has made, I've had so many questions about, is there going to be another Peachtree Bluff book? And will you do another one? And
yes,
I had always said no. And then I thought about you and I was like, well, Mary Alice took like 5 years off from the beach house, right?
I did. And then suddenly Kara went from 45 to 50 really fast.
Yeah, it's amazing how that happens. But, and for me, I think when you're talking about writing the next generation, there's a younger generation that is certainly not going to be coming of age, but will be teenagers. And in that very interesting kind of lifespan where you can, there are definitely some new stories that could be told. So,
and I think people of all ages like to read the story of young love. I think right now in this book we have young love, but we also have Kara. Yeah. Is she actually ever going to get married again? Yeah. But in the next one, I left it a cliffhanger, which is always nice. And I left it in just the right spot to continue. And I think I will, but I don't know, Kristy, do you know what you're going to write next? I'm like...
Yeah. Well, you know me. You and I are a little different on this because I have to be really far ahead, or I get really nervous.
I can't. It drives me crazy. I can't keep up with you.
But it's just it's just different. You can handle that. I just can't handle it. So I do have Under the Southern Sky coming in 2021, and I'm doing line edits right now.
I know that. I can't stand it.
And I will say,
folks, that means the book is done. It's been edited. Yeah. I haven't even finished the book, so that tells you.
I know, but you're a pro. You've been doing it longer than I have.
Where are you? I'm the opposite. Here, there you go.
You're just a pro. You've been doing it forever, and that kind of brings me to my next question. So, when you put out your very first book, if you had looked at yourself and said, down the road, I'm going to have 7.5 million copies of my books in print, would you have been like, well, yeah? Or would you have been like, what?
No, I'd have been, well, yeah.
You would have?
I hate to say it. When I was 16 years old, I was always a reader, but kind of classics. And we didn't have internet. We just kind of read what we could get our hands on, right? Yeah. And so I read a lot of the classics. And I remember a friend of my friend's mother had a huge stack of books in her counter, and I went, wow, you're going to read what are all those books? And she said, well, they're New York Times bestsellers.
Yeah.
And I said, what's that? And she explained, and I went, I'm going to make that list. I was 16 years old, and I didn't just think it, I knew it. And I did. So I'm not surprised. Uh-oh, did you freeze? Kristy, did you freeze?
Sorry, we're back now. I don't know what happened. We lost. Okay, but we heard you. She had the stack of books on the counter, and they were New York Times bestsellers, and go from there.
Okay, and I looked at them, and I am 16 years old, and I said, well, what is the New York Times? What does that mean, list? She told me, well, these are the best-selling books in America. And I honestly, I didn't think it. I knew it.
Right.
I'm going to be on that list.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Saw it. And that's what I tell people. See what you want, believe in it, and move forward. If you don't believe in it, no one else will. Yeah. And it isn't so much that I was cocky, but I knew I had a voice, and I knew I had a confidence, and I knew I was going to be writing for the rest of my life. So I just saw it and said,
that's what's happening.
So yeah, I'm surprised. You're always surprised, and trust me, I'm grateful. Because I've also been around the block enough to see books not do so well, and to see the times change, what we're going through right now. I don't know what that's going to mean to all of us. Mm-hmm. I don't take it for granted. I've seen too much happen over the course of my 25-year career. Yeah. But I will say that regardless of sales, I will write. I will continue writing.
I love that. Well, I think that's the perfect line to end on, because I know you have a really busy schedule. And so I do just want to say again, happy Pub Day for On Ocean Boulevard. I'm going to drop links below of where people can pick the book up, of where they can find you on virtual tour this week, because I know there's a lot going on for you right now. So I appreciate you taking the time. And would you please tell us where we can find you online?
Okay, thank you. Two things I want to say before I close. Thank you, Kristy. I really enjoyed that we are sharing so much now. Yeah. And you're my little sister who I know is the rising star, and we're all very excited. But you're just a wonderful person, and I enjoy
So are you. Thank you. You've been so good to me. Oh my goodness. I could never repay you. So thank you.
Well, and I'm at MaryAliceMonroe.com. And on Facebook, go to my author page. For some reason, my old defunct page is still up. So find my author page. And I think this is the last week for the grand prize for On Ocean Boulevard. But I hope y'all read the books, and please be patient. Kristy and I had the same publisher, and many publishers are having a hard time getting books out. And just please remember that the drivers are mailing everything. Everyone's ordering everything online. So as a result, everything's a little delayed. We're all in this together. So be patient. Your books will get there, and we thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Alice.
Love you.